Hello and welcome to the 2020 Asian Art in London Art Awards. As you may have already noticed, this year we are hosting our awards ceremony under rather unique circumstances. We find ourselves coming to you via central London location to present 4 awards for outstanding works of art. Without further ado, I present to you our chair, Leila de Vos.
Thank you, Claire. Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm hello. I truly hope this finds you and your dear ones well. I would like to start in particular by thanking all our participants who have collectively supported Asian art in London during these challenging times when we were not even certain at the beginning of this year whether we could hold a live event or not. When we went into lockdown, the board had to act swiftly and make the necessary changes to the organisation and our platform in order to secure continuity for the future. As a tightly knitted group, the directors met weekly on Zoom. We decided to restructure the office, move premises, and take on all the work ourselves in order to save costs. We invested in a new and much improved website. We created a virtual viewing room and increased engagement on our social media with the view of enhancing our presence all year round, whilst at the same time leading up to the yearly event in the autumn. We also expanded our event by a week to include more emphatically an Indian and Islamic week. It is therefore with great pleasure that we are able to welcome new participants such as Rita Dixit and Kapoor Galleries, who came over specially from New York and was willing to go into self-isolation for 14 days. I'm also delighted to announce that Christie's Indian and Islamic Head of Sale, Banaz Atigi Mogadam, has joined the board to strengthen us in this field. I would like to show immense gratitude to every member of the board for their determination, their resilience, and their hard work they have put into AAL over the last few months to make this event happen. A very special thank you from all of us from the board goes to Jacqueline Simcox, who single-handedly produced the guidebook, steered the finances, even moved offices, and guided us with her eye for detail and 22 years of experience at AAL. 2 months ago, we were joined by Claire Toole in the newly created role of event manager, who is now running the office with much energy and as if she had done this for years. The redesign of our website, the creation of the virtual viewing room, the interviews, the filming, and the streams of posts on social media would not have been possible without the creativity of Kerr McIlwraith. We are lucky to have you both with us. I would finally like to take this opportunity to thank our generous sponsors and co-judges of many years, Matt Ball from the Antique Trade Gazette and Tom Marks from Apollo, who will shortly be presenting the 4 awards. I am delighted that in spite of the restrictions, we have been able to come together, both virtually and live, to promote and offer Asian art across galleries and auction houses and keep shining a spotlight on London as an important centre of Asian art. Lastly, I wish you all a very successful Asian Art in London event, and although we are not able to host a gala party this year, I hope you will be able to enjoy the champagne we have delivered to you. And please, do all stay safe.
Thank you, Leila. It has certainly been a challenging year, but full of new opportunities. As Leila mentioned, we are thrilled to have Antique Trade Gazette as one of our sponsors for Asian Art in London 2020. Please allow me to introduce you to Matt Ball from the ATG, who will be presenting and introducing our first award, which is the Outstanding Indian and Islamic Award for a Work of Art from an Auction House.
Thanks, Claire. All of us at Antiques Trade Gazette are delighted to be partnering with Asian Art in London once again this year. Indeed, we have been a proud sponsor every year since the Asian Art in London Awards began, testament not only to our long-standing relationship, but crucially to the organisers' success year after year in promoting Asian art and in promoting London as the hub in the Western world for it. Looking back on the Gazette's coverage of the first Asian Art in London more than 20 years ago, it was clear that the event was a bold and brave initiative that would rapidly establish itself in the annual calendar. And the drive, determination and passion to establish that first event is still prevalent today in this year's event. with the exhibitors determined to put on a show and the organisers resolute in making sure the show would go on. And what a show! What a wonderful range of objects this year, what a wonderful set of backstories to them, and what an amazing set of exhibitions and viewings available for us all to enjoy. The decision by the organisers to separate the event into, on the one hand, an Indian and Islamic section, and on the other, an East Asian section, another characteristically bold and brave move, has been totally vindicated, and each category is able to enjoy its moment in the spotlight. At the Gazette, we've enjoyed browsing through so many wonderful objects and have had no hesitation in dedicating so many pages, both print pages and web pages, to our coverage of this topic over the past few weeks. One of the joys of being a sponsor is to participate in the judging panel itself. For me, it was fascinating to hear so many learned opinions and listen to such great enthusiasm for the objects on display this year. Despite the wide diversity in the makeup of the panel, what was noticeable was, after a while, we were able to come to a widespread consensus on what was the very best of the best. But Asian art in London isn't just about the winners we're celebrating today, it's also about all the objects on display. And we would encourage everyone to view those objects in person if you can, or online. And like us at the Gazette, you'll find yourself rapidly immersed in a wide variety, rich craftsmanship, and centuries of history.
Thanks, Matt. We were lucky enough to visit the shortlisted nominees for our first award. Take a look at these amazing pieces.
Hi, my name is Behnaz Atigi Muqaddam, and I'm the head of sale in the Islamic and Indian department here at Christie's. We have here a beautiful cast bronze silver inlaid candlestick, which is our object submitted for this year's award. This candlestick dates to mid-14th century. It's attributable to Fars or Western Iran. It's remarkable for the incredible amount of silver inlaid that's still remaining given its age. There are Persian and Arabic inscriptions all around the body. There are benedictory inscriptions, which is commonly found on such objects. The design feature has 6 pointed stars around the neck, which makes it quite unusual. This 6 pointed star design is also found in a tomb of Ollemans, who was a ruler also in the 14th century. His tomb has a fresco as you enter, which has an incredibly large 6 pointed star on the ceiling. This similar design pattern makes it possible that this candlestick was probably made during his time. The design and the size of the candlestick places it in a group of similar cast bronze candlesticks, which were probably made in the same center, but then distributed to different centers because their outer designs vary in so many ways. The double bird patterns are also repeated in so many places, and they closely relate to two examples in the Berlin Islamic Art Museum and the Aga Khan Museum. It's a remarkable piece, and it has many wonderful details, and the more you look, the more you see.
Good morning, my name's Alice Bailey and I'm Head of Department for Islamic and Indian Arts at Roseberys Auction House. I'm delighted to show you today a royal CD manuscript which we have submitted for the award in London. This amazing manuscript is actually really important for the cultural history of Africa and India. It's a disassembled manuscript, so it does not have a binding. But it consists of 244 folios and 29 illustrations, which are lavishly decorated in gilt and gouache. It was commissioned according to the opening folio for the Nawab of Sachin state near Gujarat by Ibrahim Muhammad Yaqut Khan, probably the first who ruled for 1802 to 1853. There were a number of rulers who actually had this same name, but judging by the quality of the illustration and the fact that we have found a date of 1250 AH or 1834 in some of the folios, we think that the manuscript was produced under his rule. There is in fact a portrait of this ruler included in the manuscript, and we have it here. The manuscript is important because it is the only known material remain or written remain of this dynasty that was present from 1791 until 1947 in India.
Well, hello, my name is Alexandra Roy, and I'm a specialist at Sotheby's on the Arts of the Islamic World sales. And I'm going to speak about this beautiful flask, which we are presenting for the prize, for the art prize. So it is a surahi, so a flask which would have been used for serving wine at court. It was produced in northern India at the Mughal courts, in the Mughal Empire, I should say. It features over 600 emeralds on its body, and these have all been cut quite flat and full-backed in order to bring out their maximum brilliance. The neck was enameled, so you can see this quite extraordinary white enameling, and these flowers were gem set, and so they protrude a little bit, so it gives us this quite physical feeling, I would say. And the lid also matches the body and is topped with a rose-cut diamond. And one of the indications of its use actually comes from underside, so I have to show it to you. So there's this beautiful enameling on the underside, which reveals birds and flowers. And I think this is the kind of thing that only would have been seen when it was poured at court. The two most comparable objects, so an object like this originally would have sat on a matching tray, ready to be served. And the two most comparable objects are now in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. And those two pieces, a flask and a tray, had in fact been sent as diplomatic gifts by Nadir Shah of Iran, who had plundered the Mughal courts in 1739. But our flask has a slightly different story. It had originally belonged to one of the Nizams of Hyderabad and been gifted to the ancestors of the current owners. And it is now looking for its next home with us.
Three impressive objects there, I'm sure you'll agree. In judging this award, the panel found itself gravitating not towards the item that attracted the highest estimate, but towards the object that attracted their highest esteem. The early 19th century Royal City manuscript, for its rarity, its colour combinations, and its potential for even more to be discovered, attracted the judges' interest like no other. So I'm delighted to announce that the award for an outstanding Indian and Islamic work of art from an auction house this year goes to Roseberys.
I'm delighted to accept this award on behalf of Roseberys Auction House. I'm very honoured that this manuscript has been given the recognition it deserves. And I'd just like to thank the Antiques Trade Gazette for sponsoring the award. Really thrilled to be given this, and I'd like to thank all my colleagues at Roseberys that make it such a wonderful place to work. Thank you very much.
Now let's take a look at the three remarkable pieces shortlisted for our second award.
So this gorgeously coloured painting commands our attention for its lavish and exquisite detail, particularly the hems, the headdresses, and the fine details on the silk robes and also the lacquer boxes. We, the viewer, are invited into the private courtyard of the emperor. We see two ladies playing chess, one of the four arts of the scholar. And this would have been quite unusual. This probably would have represented a fantasy for the Manchu emperors. He quite often expressly forbade Manchu women for dressing in this way and in this style. And so these probably represent idealized fantasies of a culture that he very much admired and wanted to assimilate into.
Hello, my name is Kate Hunt. I'm the head of the Chinese department at Christie's in London, and I'd like to introduce to you today these two magnificent gold and silver inlaid bronze chariot fittings. They date to the Eastern Zhou dynasty, to the 4th to the 3rd century BC. And they are really a tour de force of the craftsman's workmanship in the casting of these bronze chariot fittings, which are also reticulated, and in the gold and silver inlay detail that has been used here. So to share with you how these would have been used, they would have been attached to the front of a chariot, and on the curve here would have rested a crossbow that would have leant against the front of the chariot in front of the charioteer. These are incredibly powerful in person. They're the type of work of art that you come across from time to time, which really has a strong visual presence. And when you look at them, your eyes are drawn into the magnificent details on the side. So you work from the back, and you start with a sort of a zoomorphic bird-headed creature that forms the tail, and you follow the curls and curvilinear designs around up until the main body of this very powerfully cast dragon, and you can see his leg is crouched. It's like it's ready to pounce. And then you follow the sinuous body down, and you come to the dragon's gaping jaw. And then you see that his front claw is held out, clasping the body of this phoenix, which has been cast with great movement. The head is slightly inclined to one side, and it's a much more feminine representation. The dragon and the phoenix became very much associated with the emperor and his empress during these times, and you can see this throughout the course of Chinese history.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Kett-Baumann, and I work in the Japanese Works of Art department at Sotheby's. And today I'm going to talk to you about our submission for the Art Award. So in front of me, we have a unique and outstanding example of Jitsai okimono. Jitsai okimono were articulated objects of display, which were very popular in Japan from the beginning of the 18th century. And people had them in their homes and displayed them in alcoves alongside pieces of porcelain, earthenware, and hanging scrolls. So they were made by hammering together plates of iron in a very similar way to how samurai armor was made. So it's of no surprise the makers of Jitsai okimono were also the makers of Japanese armor. And in the Edo period, Japan went through huge changes in terms of its military and politics, and the demand for armor dwindled. So these workshops had to rethink and reshape their production output, so turned to creating these amazing works of art. Jitsai okimono came in various different shapes and sizes. So you find crabs, lobsters, insects, and even dragons. And here we have a snake made by the Myochin Studio Workshop, a family workshop which had bases all across Japan. And this snake is incredible. It's incredible because of its size. It measures more than 3 meters long. And it's incredible because of the level of workmanship and detail that's gone into making this as naturalistic as possible. If you look at the beautiful incisions here for the scales on its head, together with its hinged jaw, its sort of curved, sharp teeth, and its gilt tongue that's just poking out there, and its gilt eyes. I mean, it is incredible. And I have to say, it does look like there is a real, live, deadly snake in front of me.
3 standout works of art, from which one showstopper with millennia of history on its side rapidly emerged. For the gold and silver inlaid bronze chariot fittings, I'm delighted to announce that the Antiques Trade Gazette Award for Outstanding East Asian Work of Art from an Auction House goes to Christie's.
On behalf of Christie's, I would like to say that we are honored to accept this award for an outstanding East Asian work of art from an auction house. And also would like to say a big thank you to the Antiques Trade Gazette and Asian Art in London.
Congratulations to both of our auction house winners. Find out more about the winners online now at asianartinlondon.com. For the second part of the ceremony, we welcome our sponsor, Apollo Magazine, and their editor, Tom Marks. Tom will be presenting our 2 dealer-based awards for outstanding works of art.
Thanks, Claire. Apollo has been supporting Asian art in London for many years now, and we're proud to do so, proud of our sponsorship, and perhaps especially in this most turbulent of years. It strikes me that gallery and auction house-based events are one firm pathway for all sectors of the art market to find their way through the straitened circumstances in which we're now living. And I hope that with that in mind, many of you will feel encouraged to visit the businesses that are taking part or will have done so already. More than that, every year Asian Art in London, for me, has allowed for journeys. It's allowed for imaginative journeys into cultures and artistic traditions that are far from London and often distant in time. They're journeys that at the magazine, at Apollo, allow us to take editorial adventures as well. And I want to thank Asian Art in London for inspiring us to do that. This year, both our October and November issues foray into the worlds of Islamic, Indian and East Asian art. We visit the Khalidi Library in Jerusalem. We head to Tunis to think about endangered heritage. We go to the Musée Chernousky in Paris, where the extraordinary East Asian art collections have been redisplayed during the pandemic. And we even take a pilgrimage to the shrines and temples of Nikko in Japan. I do hope you'll be able to pick up a copy of those issues when you visit the participating auction houses and dealerships at Asian Art in London. Above all, I want to congratulate Asian Art in London for its perseverance and its optimism this year. I want to wish rude health to all the participating art businesses. And I hope that you as visitors will find yourself on imaginative voyages, the type of voyages that objects make possible. We certainly all need to take those imaginative journeys right now.
Thanks, Tom. We recently visited our shortlisted nominees for the outstanding work of art from an Indian and Islamic dealer. Take a look at these incredible works of art.
Welcome to Peter Finers. We're excited to show pieces from across the East here, from Tibet, China, India, the Ottoman Empire and Japan. One of our highlighted piece for Asian Art in London is this fabulous Indian dagger made in Jaipur in the early part of the 19th century. What's particularly special about it is the enamel work, which is inlaid over gold, and you have this wonderful horse head depicted in marvellous green enamel, blue and red enamel, with these flower heads. The piece would have been worn by somebody of great stature and wealth, really a reflection of his sophistication and wealth, and would have been a very prized object for whoever owned it.
My name is Brendan Lynch of Oliver Forge and Brendan Lynch Limited. We deal in Indian and Islamic art, and this year we've decided to present a work of art from Iran, a piece of metalwork, which you see here beside me. It dates from the Qajar period. The Qajars were a Turkic dynasty that ruled Iran from the late 18th century and throughout the 19th century. And with the decline of the use of weapons in the 19th century, when they became largely ceremonial, they developed a craft in producing really rather superb steel objects at court, and there was a fashion for objects made of steel inlaid with silver and sometimes gold, and rarely both silver and gold, as you see here. Steel has to be heated to a temperature of about 1000 Celsius in order to mold it and shape it. And here you see this piece has been made in 3 sections, which have then been welded together. Once that's been done, the gold inlay is hammered in fact, against a chased ground of dense foliate scrolling, which you can see here. And after that's been completed, the silver overlay is added into the designs of these small and large palmettes you can see here. So the shape itself is actually based on a 17th century pottery prototype. And the 17th century was the great period of Safavid rule in Iran. And that really affected subsequent taste in terms of design and decorative motifs. And we see that very much in this example. It is, however, very typical of the Qajar period. And I think the reason it's exceptional is it combines a superb technique and design with a really wonderful shape.
My name is Runjeet Singh. I am a participant in this year's Asian Art in London. And this is my entry for the Art Award. It is a dal or a shield made in India in the last half of the 19th century. And we know the maker, or we think it comes from the workshop of Kusal Dunji and Sons, who were working out of Ahmedabad, which is the capital of the state of Gujarat. And it's very classical for the workshop. The colour scheme, red paint on a black background with this floral border, and the 4 bosses with a sunburst in the middle. And this repeating floral motif on the main face of the shield is very classical. What puts this apart from the group are the 4 hunting scenes, which are contained within 4 cartouches. 2 of them show scenes of animals, deer and tiger. And the one at the top shows 2 European men identified as Europeans by the helmets they're wearing, pith helmets. And the second one is 2 Indian men identified by their turbans and their earrings. And one of the men is seen galloping towards his friend, pointing a rifle, who has been captured by a tiger and is held in the jaws of a tiger after trying to stab the tiger in the stomach. And this taking on a large cat with a sword or a dagger was kind of a passage of rights for Indian men of certain warrior castes in India. And sadly, it looks like in this case, the man lost the fight.
The judges decided that one object was strikingly graphic in its design, in its colour. It drew you in, and as it drew you in, it took you into a richly detailed world of technique, of metalwork, of painted pigment, with cartouche paintings, with a beautiful floral border. The winner of the Apollo Award for an outstanding Indian or Islamic work of art from a dealer is for a Gujarati shield from the 19th century and is awarded to Runjeet Singh.
Thank you for this incredible award to Asian Art in London and to Apollo magazine, and thank you, Tom, for presenting me with the award. I want to thank all of the Apollo team for writing about it and supporting it, all the Asian Art in London directors and Layla, our chairperson, and also to all my colleagues, dealers and auction houses who voted for the object.
Congratulations, Runjeet. We're now going to take a look at the nominees for East Asian artworks with dealers.
My name is Sue Ollemans. I'm exhibiting in Asian Art in London. My submission for this year's Chinese award is a pair of Chinese gold earrings from the Ming Dynasty period. They date from the 16th century. They are very typical of the period. They're a pair of double gourds, which are the giver of long life and good fortune, held by very fine, beautifully worked vines and a pair of tortuous pins at the back, which actually are quite easy to wear. They really show the magnificent craftsmanship of the goldsmiths of this period. The rest of the exhibition is jewelry from Southeast Asia, from India, and from China.
Okay, so I'm Michael Goodhouse. I'm a art dealer in mostly Chinese contemporary art. We also do Western contemporary as well, but we're focusing now for Asian Art in London on Chinese contemporary art. It's a great opportunity. Asian Art in London is flying, and this is the painting that we're focusing on at the moment, which is by Li Chevalier, major Chinese artist working in Paris now, having grown up in China during the Cultural Revolution. She works within a sort of metaphysical tension, which is between ink, the symbol of Chinese fluidity of Chinese thought on the one hand, and canvas, which is the concrete textured expression of Western civilization on the other. And this is what she's trying to combine in her works in general, which can be paintings, they can also be performance and installation.
Hello, I'm Simon Pilling, East Asian Art and Interiors. This is my submission for this year's Art Award. It is a writing box from Japan. A writing box is primarily to hold an inkstone, which is what is needed for working with any pen and ink in Japanese calligraphy or writing letters. Over the course of 1,000 years, it has been refined into something of quite extraordinary beauty. The intention is that the owner is put into a frame of mind by seeing the writing box and then opening it and seeing a different design inside. So if we look at the outside, what we're seeing here are a willow tree, and then crawling through that is a plum blossom. The plum blossom is formed by mother of pearl inlay, which has the most wonderful iridescence when you see it under the correct lighting. It's a circular writing box, and this immediately tells us that it is something which is alluding to the full moon. And so we're looking at an evening view where the design is glowing in the moonlight. But the true wonder really comes when you open it up. And there you see a completely different type of design. This is a design known as the 7 Grasses of Autumn, which is a traditional design dating back at least 1,000 years and has sort of featured in Japanese poetry and Japanese art for all that period. But what we're seeing with this artist's interpretation is a modern take on a very traditional theme. Looking at what's inside the box, we have 2 items. We have the inkstone. This is what the artist or the user would take for rubbing an ink stick on the stone just to get the dust of the ink off the block. And the whole would be then diluted by water, which is held in this water dropper. The water dropper, as you can see, is in the shape of a chrysanthemum, a very important plant in Japanese symbolism. And then the plants themselves are these 7 traditional plants which always are associated with autumn, which for the Japanese is one of the most emotionally charged seasons of the year, since they know that they are moving into the rigours of winter. So this piece would only probably been used or shown during that autumnal period.
The winning artwork for this award goes to an object that enchanted the judges, with its mastery of techniques, with its powders, its inlays, with its intriguing scale and shape, with its feeling for Japanese traditions and yet its striking originality. It left an afterimage in the minds of the judges. The winner of the Apollo Award for an outstanding East Asian work of art from a dealer goes to a writing box from the early 1930s by Hiraishi Takashi and is awarded to Simon Pilling.
I'd like to thank Tom for what he said about this work. the magazine, and of course Asian Art in London for this amazing award. Particularly, I think we need to think of the artist who created it, who at the time was still in his 20s. He went on through the rest of his life to teach the next generation of lacquer artists in Kyoto and was awarded with cultural merit from Kyoto for his achievements. So thank you so much.
Congratulations, Simon. It has been a pleasure this year to present 4 awards for these incredible works of art. Once again, we would like to extend our gratitude to our sponsors, Antiques Trade Gazette and Apollo Magazine, and of course our participants for their ongoing support, innovation, and dedication to Asian art in London. Don't forget, Asian Art in London goes on until the 7th of November with our East Asian art participants open for business. For more information on visiting exhibitions and auctions, visit asianartinlondon.com and stay tuned for more programs and projects throughout the year. Thank you for watching our virtual awards ceremony, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.